Welcome back to another episode of Vancouver Real. My name is Andy Zaremba, and this episode is sponsored by Float House. And if you have no idea what Float House or floating is, go to our website, floathouse.ca. We have all sorts of great information and really great videos on anything you'd like to learn about flotation therapy. And if you go to YouTube and you type in "what is floating," you can definitely find a really concise 7-minute video that'll give you a breakdown of what to expect during your float experience and all of the benefits you can receive from attempting it. And if you'd like to give it a shot, you can use the promo code VancouverReal through the website floathouse.ca, and that will actually get you a 20% discount on a single float. And today, I had the privilege to interview Wim Hof, the Iceman, via Skype. And this came about in a very interesting way. Wim is actually going to be doing a workshop right here in Vancouver on May 21st. He's going to be in Toronto on May 20th. He's doing a world tour. I'm not sure of all the cities he's visiting, but Toronto will be May 20th. Vancouver will be May 21st. And we got connected through Wim through one of his trainers. His name's Casper. And Casper is a best-selling author of a book called Mind Lift. And the weekend after the 21st, he's going to be coming into town as well to be doing a full weekend immersion, which will include cold water swimming, the breathwork exercises, and also a hike into the mountains with just wearing a pair of shorts. So you get to have the full Wim Hof experience and do a deep dive into that. But if you're looking for more of a blasting, just one afternoon of intensive Wim Hof, that's going to be May 21st in Vancouver at the Nest in UBC. And if you'd like to get tickets to that, you can go to the Vancouver Real Facebook page. We have the event pinned to the top, and you can click through to the link where you can buy tickets, or you can visit vancouverreal.tv. Under the community tab, you will find the affiliates link, and we are affiliates for him, and you can click through there and purchase your tickets to the event there as well. Now, Wim is someone who I've been wanting to get on the podcast for a very long time. My brother and I, Mike, and a few friends have been doing cold water immersion for quite some time now. We actually started back in 2010 when we would just go into Seymour River on the North Shore. And for any of you who have ever been in like a fast-moving river that is cold, you'll note it adds an extra little bite to it because there's no cushion of warmth that builds around you. The heat's just being completely sucked away. And we initially were doing it just for pain relief from practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Our joints would always get really sore, so we'd go into the river and ice down. But then it became more than that. In fact, we started making it a bit of a practice, and we'd go in on a regular basis just to see how long we could stay in for. And what we realized was that the cold did something interesting to us, and it was a great way to get us out of our heads a little bit, into our bodies. And I tell you what, when you go into the cold water, there is nothing else on your mind at that time. It is a great way to interrupt your thought patterns and really pull you into the present moment. And this is something that I discussed in depth with Wim on the podcast, along with all of the benefits of the Wim Hof method, the breathing technique, and the cold water immersion, how he's learned how to tap his autonomic nervous system, and all of the health benefits that go along with that. And we talked about the research that has been done. We talked about the research that is being conducted right now, and it's really fascinating stuff to back up Wim's claims. And on a side note about Wim, I was really just really surprised to see and happy to see how down-to-earth Wim really is. He talked to me like I was just a normal guy, and it was just a one-on-one conversation with a friend. And I really appreciated his groundedness, his heart-centered nature, and this guy is someone who just really cares. And that he just cares about people, and he gets people. And, there's rumors going around that he's like a very charismatic guy, and that is absolutely true. He draws you in, and you can't help but love the guy. So without further ado, I give you the man himself, Wim Hof. recording. And I am here today with Wim Hof, the Iceman. And you have been somebody who's been on my radar for a very long time. In fact, my friends and I, Alexander Boldazar and my brother Mike, the co-host of Vancouver Real, started doing cold water immersion in North Vancouver in Seymour River. And we would go into the river and we were exploring this because we were all doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and our joints were getting very sore from that, right? So we'd go into the cold water to help the joints, but then we realized that there was much more to this cold water immersion than just the healing for the joints, right? And then all of a sudden one day we see this documentary and it is you on Discovery Channel. And we were like, wow, who is this guy, the Iceman, doing this thing that we've been talking about for a while now? But you've been doing this method quite a lot longer than that. We started in 2010. So when did this all start for you?
Like 40 years ago.
40 years ago.
40, yes.
40.
40 years ago, as I was 17 years old. And also, like you, doing Kung Fu, Karate, Yoga, esoteric disciplines, looking into Buddhism, Hinduism, and all kinds of stuff, you know. Yeah. We are into, you know, those times, I was different than others because everybody around me was like Catholic or Protestant.
Yes.
But I was more into Hinduism and Buddhism and Japanese fighting traditions and about energy of the Sufis and things like that.
Yes.
So I was into that already since I was 12 years old. And at the age of 17, I just came across a frozen over lake and I felt attracted to go in. I did it. And there it was born, the Iceman. You know, that feeling what you got is the connection with the deeper physiology. You have to, but it also makes it accessible. I always say it's merciless but righteous.
Merciless.
And it is so.
Yes.
Yes. And now it's like getting widespread all over the world, and I'm really into science and it all, bringing it into the school books, and it should be there. It should be in the school books for everybody.
Absolutely.
Everybody should know that the cold is a great ally. Once you control the cold, you control the connection. The conscious connection between the brain and the vascular system, the lymphatic system, the autonomic nervous system, about anything, the way nature meant us to be. And that's why I did it then, you know, in a soul search. And it all began like 47 years ago.
Absolutely.
And now it has come to, I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
I like it. I love it.
You know, it's amazing. It really is incredible. And again, we found ourselves going into the water in a river, and it was very cold. It's mountain runoff. And plus the water has that convection, so it just pulls the heat out of your body. Now, we were doing it, again, for the joint pain originally, but then the cold water is very interesting because it's so immediate, you know. And I'll speak for myself. It draws me very deeply into the present moment. Because when you hit that water and that shock kind of hits your body, you know, everything else that's going on in your life goes away. And you happen to be right there in the present moment. And I'd like you to speak on that idea about how you relate to that.
Yes. We did the studies, scientific studies on this. And I always felt this, just what you said. You're not going to picnic in the ice water.
No.
And especially when the film layer of air around your body is being washed away all the time by the currents of the water. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
It's intense, but I love it.
Yeah. The thing is, what happens that our non-stimulated, deeper parts of the brain need to be activated. And the body knows how to do it. The only thing we need to do is not to go into whatever is going on at home or tomorrow or yesterday or emotional. No, you are surviving. You learn with your daily ways of thinking. That's the neocortex. That one is learning to abide to the laws of the hormonal secretions coming from the brainstem. That's the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain, together with the limbic system, are the deepest parts of the brain. And we never, because of a comfort zone behavior, we have so much contact with these deeper parts of the brain. And the cold just brings that around. It makes this connection directly into the deepest part of the brain. And once you do not panic and just let it go, the body's intelligence suddenly is able to adapt and to have a line, a connection directly to the adrenaline, the epinephrine, the cortisol. And you know what? Those are the survival hormones.
Yes.
But now it comes in the brain while a stress, intense stress is going on the body, which is ice water, very aggressively. We know how to survive, to control it, and to bring about not only the 100% activity of the nervous system, which is the sympathetic nervous system activity in the insula.
Yes.
But also, at the very moment when you control it, you are able to learn to ignite good feel hormones like endorphins, dopamines, serotonins. And you know what? In society, we suffer a lot of depression, anxiety, fear, PTSD, and all because we have a lack of this connection to create under the daily stress the good feel hormones.
Yes.
Now, by going into the water, into the cold water, you learn actually to access in the deepest parts of the brain and bring about, even under 100% stress, good feeling, peace, being a witness, and all the good feel hormones therein. And that makes you the master over your body, over your mood. So any mood disorder or depression or anxiety and all that, we got all these things because we are out of control. And the cold water really is merciless but righteous.
Yes.
It brings us back to this natural connection in the brain together with the body, and then the body is the way nature meant it to be. And that's tremendous good.
There's one friend of mine in Vancouver. His name is Bryce Evans, and he runs a project called the One Project. It's all about mental health. And he wanted to know, I wanted to go in a little deeper into this idea of how the Wim Hof method can treat mental health disorders. You know?
Yes.
Can you go a little deeper into that subject for Bryce?
Yeah, man, I can do that. Nice to meet you, by the way, Andy.
Oh, nice to meet you too. It's great talking to you. This is awesome.
Great. I just did a big study on that in the Michigan, Wayne State University, just across the Canadian border, is Detroit. And in Detroit, I did this study, and I showed under severe stress of ice water on my body while being in a brain scan, you cannot move. You cannot even breathe deeply while being under the brain scan. Otherwise, you get blurred visions on the monitors of the brain scan,
yes,
of the brain imaging. So there I was, under the brain scan, completely silent, having a vest, dressed with a vest full of tubes, wherein cold water was being poured in, skin temperature being measured, ice water being poured in, like 7.5 minutes every cycle.
Yes.
4 times.
Yes.
And the only thing I could do was thinking. Set my mind. That was the only thing I could do. And I set my mind before. I wanted to show that I'm able to have the ice water poured into me, on my body, and make the skin temperature not go down just by thinking. You got that?
Yes.
So I showed 4 times. First time, 2 times, do nothing. Skin temperature after ice water immersion or exposure went drastically down, plumped. Skin temperature I'm talking about.
Yes.
Like 25 degrees Celsius. Down. Boom. 7.5 minutes. Then the ice water was warm again. Oh, skin temperature going up. 2 times. Then my intention was to show, now I go make the difference with the method. I tell you what the method is all about. Not being able to move, I'm going to make the difference under the brain scan, showing that only by thought power, mind power, I'm able to stop the decrease of the skin temperature after exposure of ice water. Right. I did it 4 times.
Amazing.
4 times.
So this is,
and that is the result. Now comes the conclusion. Sorry, Andy.
That's okay.
The thing is, I showed it, and you know what they saw in the brain? And they had 77 other test subjects not being able to maintain skin temperature. They all went boom, 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 like 70, 150 times, boom, plumbing. And I showed equal. So then they were looking into the brain, and they saw that the part of the brain working, which normally never is able to work, is the one that goes into parasympathetic nervous system activity,
the
which
fight
is
or flight.
Peace, the fight or flight, but then the contrary, completely being in fight or flight, being also completely tranquil, in peace, and in control. And thus, not only igniting adrenaline, to make the body strong,
yes,
because it's ice water,
the stress hormones,
endogenous opiates, dopamines, serotonins, melatonins, all present. And then professors, psychiatrists, scientific department of the Wayne State University, they say this is possibly the key to fight depression, mood disorders, anxiety, fear. And there is no doubt about it. Because this is the lack we always see with people with anxiety and mental or mood disorders and or depression. It's a lot of cytokines, inflammatory markers, and we see it all go whoom, suppressed, and the good feel hormones directly there present. So at will, and that's the difference. It is at will. Yes. And where did we learn this? Where did you learn this? In the cold water. In the cold water, you learn to let it go at that. Then at a certain moment, it doesn't feel as cold, as negative anymore. You feel control because your body is in flames, is energetically, totally present. And then suddenly you are able to witness what is happening. And that those are accompanied with good feel hormones.
Absolutely.
So this is my answer.
Well, that's a great answer, Wim. Now, when you're talking a lot about mind over matter. It seems like. So to me, it's like you are training the brain, or you're training your mind to create a distance from what is happening in your body. So your body, like you said, is on fire. It's cold. You feel intense sensation. Yet your mind is centered and you're calm, right? And this is such a great way to train the mind, right? To enter into an intense situation, right? And also be able to remain calm in that situation, which is such an important thing because so many people these days, I mean, across the world, they react. They react instead of respond. They have this feeling in their body. They can't really control it. They don't know how to handle it, and then they react instead of respond. And and there's a lot of problems that come because of that, right? Because people just, they'll say something they didn't mean to say, or they'll hurt somebody's feelings, or they're going to do something that maybe they might regret later on because they didn't have control over their mind and how they react to that situation. So I think this training is super important to give people that mental discipline, and I believe that it is possible to get people more mentally healthy, more psychologically strong by doing this kind of training. Now, one thing you touched on that I wanted to go into that I thought was very interesting was the idea of heating up your skin temperature. There are stories that monks used to use this technique. They used to go and sit by the river, and they would put cold towels on their skin and on their back, and they would heat their body, right? And it would dry the towels, and they'd see how many towels they could dry in one night. This was an old technique they used to use. And I guess my question here is, leading into some of these ancient techniques, this ancient wisdom, how much of your method is drawn upon from some of the old teachings, from like Hinduism, Buddhism, and those kind of things?
Yes, I read, when I was young, I read about it. But that's all. I never had a teaching of them.
Yeah.
I just learned to do it in my backyard, wherever I lived, in Amsterdam. And I developed a way to handle the cold and to do seemingly impossible feats in the cold. Because it is a natural ability of ours to be able to do that, to naturally and gradually evolve and develop a physiology which is able to tackle both with the mind and the body called as such in nature. And the mind is being trained, which is far more important than sitting in the snow and melting it and or drying sheets. I got a washing dryer up here who is doing the same thing.
Oh yeah, that's an easier way for sure, right?
Thing is, it would be great, but it would be great to be able to dry sheets out, and that's good. I did feats like that, but that is only done after so much training.
Yes, yes.
And that is also part of the mind control. Now, I found a way which is far more accessible for Westerners to get into with our lifestyle, with our minding, with our thinking patterns. So, what is important in our society, I said to myself, not to dry sheets and to go very deeply into that all. We have no time. But how to tackle depression, anxiety, health issues, pain, chronic pain issues, and all that effectively. So I went into that, and now, because of the studies, we can show we are able to tackle pain, like chronic pain, inflammation, which is the cause of almost any disease, and mental conditions like depression, etc. It's a growing condition, by the way, in this society, because our neurology is exposed to so much information and so demanding and so exerted it all is, and we have no control. Then, when the mind is not fully in control and is being released in a society which is exerting all the mind, all the thoughts and all this neurology, then of course you get strain, and then you get shortage. Not only short circuit, but shortage on cell level. And in a cell level, you get the mitochondria creating energy. You know the energy factories,
Yes.
and they because of the oxidative stress levels, stress hormone, having to demand deadlines, this, go on, more, it then shuts down because there is no energy anymore to deal with the oxidative stress, which about everybody is dealing with that.
Absolutely.
Now, this method, sorry, but it deals very effectively with this stress hormone, adrenaline, cortisol, and epinephrine. Thus, we get this completely under control. Not only that, and you know by experience, that going regular into cold bathing and breathing deeply brings about a lot more, calmness and energy and confidence therefrom. And this is the answer we need. So we don't need to go out in the winter, drying sheets and all.
Yes.
But in 4 days, I can make people go into like minus 20 or minus 30 degrees even for hours in their shorts. In 4 days, what is this? We are talking about a natural ability wherein people are very, very motivated to do it, and then suddenly they see they are able to do it.
Yes.
And an awakening to this ability of ours is not looking at old traditions and mystical doctrines and things like that, which is nice, it's okay, but I think now we can do more.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we are on a different level. Our mental neurology is far more increased. So I'm just at the beginning with the neuroscientific departments of Stanford University, Wayne State University, Hanover University, on the brains, what we can do, the mind, how what you just recently said, how looking at a distance to severe stress impact is learning how to disassociate in the brain while the brain activity is fully on, having control over the body, making the body able to do things because our interference is not there consciously, making our bodies able to do things we thought we cannot do that.
Yes.
So I'm looking at miracles all the time. So I don't know if I answered your question, really, but we are only at the beginning of exploring the mind, and it's incredible what we are going to find.
Yes. What I would take from that is I would say that you're saying that what you learned from your direct primary experience is now being validated through science. That's what it sounds like you're saying to me, right? Now, you touched on the training that is required to acquire these skills. And you are going to be going on tour. And you're going to be in Toronto on May 20th and Vancouver May 21st. And I have never done a full workshop immersion with you before. I've seen your training online. I practice it at the river. But what can somebody expect from a full day event with you?
Expectancy. I just give it my best. That's what I always do with every workshop. So I will relate with the public. I will relate with the people over there. I understand the question. I can feel it. Because I learned to do that when I go into the mountains with people in very dangerous environments. I mean, freezing temperatures, height, oxygen deprivative situations, and all that can occur, and there is no warm room over there, or a hotel, or a taxi, or a car, or whatsoever. No, you just have to survive. So I've learned to feel if the people, where the people are, am I able to explore with these people deeper the depth of the physiology. And I'm right now really experienced in feeling that. This is the relationship I'm going into when I'm Toronto. So from there, I feel the right way, with feeling how to deepen this and to bring a feeling as understanding, to bring the depth to their awareness and to show the insights, not just talking, feeling. Feeling is understanding.
Yes.
Reconnect the body with the brain. And, it's amazing what I'm learning in an afternoon or a day with an audience. Because I'm always into learning, not into teaching and preaching. No, you guys teach me, because it's all about the energy. It's all about the consciousness of that energy in the depth of the body, of the subconscious, of the so-called subconscious. Because consciousness is perception, and sub is under the perception. You don't perceive. I want to go into that subconscious and make it conscious.
Yes.
Thus, everything changes, your feeling changes, and that's the mind. And that mind suddenly feels the confidence, hey, I can reach into the depth. I can do so many things I thought I couldn't.
Yes.
You become aware of your full potential, the way nature meant it to be. And that's exactly my intention when I step into the room with all the people over there.
You're right. It's exactly what you said. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's a completely other thing to experience it. And the direct primary experience is so important, because there's a lot of people out there that read a lot of books and listen to podcasts and all these different things. But until you actually go and you experience it viscerally, you're not really going to know it, right? There's a big difference between that. Now, I just wanted to switch gears a little bit, and a question I had for you around some of your world records. How many world records do you currently hold, and which one was the most difficult for you?
I hold 26 world records.
Wow.
Which one was the most difficult? Every time you do a thing like that, you just give it all you got. So you always go 100%. But what happens when you lose the hole under the ice? Meter of ice. You are in the river, and you don't see the hole anymore. After 50 meters, there's no hole. And you have to keep on swimming, and you have only one breath hold. So things like that makes it difficult. But it also opens up a different awareness of your own physiology in the depth, triggered by this survival situation, where we normally choose not to get into. So, is it difficult? Is it not difficult? Yeah, at that moment, of course, I was near death, but I swam much more than twice the distance, so 113 meters, when I just lost the perception of visual awareness, and it went on being this-like.
Tunnel vision.
Yes, tunnel vision, and I swam on, and I began to sleep. Imagine going into a sleep, not feeling the cold, well, you're being under the ice, breath hold, after 100 meters.
Yes.
Is that difficult? Was that difficult? Yeah, of course, for the physiology, it was absolutely difficult. But for my consciousness, I didn't feel the agony. I really conquered the fear of what is dying over there. There was no dying. Everything in my body was in control. And that consciousness, that awareness, we have lost.
Yes.
That's why so many people have fear for dying. So, okay, this is a step aside. It's about this record. By the way, it was the rehearsal of the record. The record was done the other day, which was only 50 meters.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I want to go into that, overcoming the fear of death, okay? Because when you go under the ice like that, there's really no turning back, and it's you're gonna either survive or you're not, and that's the way it's gonna be, and it's a little bit out of your control what's gonna happen to you. But the one thing you can control is your outlook, your state of mind, your what you're bringing to it mentally. So
Exactly.
can you go explain a little bit about your process, maybe the psychological process that you
Yes.
go through in order to eliminate that fear of death?
Yes, exactly. Wow, that's the topic. If the right connection makes you able to keep on going and being aware while you are in a very dangerous situation. And the right connection means the right chemistry in the body. Makes the thought power, the awareness of that body, the awareness is that the witness within. And I learned to disassociate, as you said, learn to make distance and feel good. That is only because your body has really adapted to that aggressive, to that dangerous situation, that enormous impact on the body, which is ice water. But now it's not only ice water, it's also breath hold. But because I do these breathing techniques, I alkalize my body. And what happens is that under the ice, while being 100 meters on the way, I still don't feel the agony of drowning. And the agony of drowning actually pairs because your body has a trigger of carbon dioxide, of being sore, CO2, reflex.
Yes,
That creates the convulsion, that creates the tremor, it creates this agony. But it is not there because we learn with these breathing techniques to control the CO2, carbon dioxide reflex, and have the body deeply in the tissue alkaline.
Yes.
And we have shown this just recently, the big study in the university. Everybody who's doing this, alkalinity within 20 minutes, boom, up there in the tissue, in the depth of the body. So what I say for people who are into dying or who do not know what is death or how to approach that, I say, make the body alkaline. Then the body is able to shut down without agony. You're completely aware, a witness at that moment. And the last one is the witness, and it goes with the soul somewhere else, probably somewhere maybe even more beautiful. It's beautiful here, but when the job is done, the job is done.
Yes. Yes, that's interesting. I have a question from the other gentleman who I was swimming in the river with. His name is Alexander Boldazar. And he was wanting to make the comparison because you had mentioned when you had that CO2 increase, you start convulsing. And I know a lot of free divers, the people who dive really deep.
Yeah.
And then they come back up. The risk is that they can black out. They can pass
Shallow
out.
water blackout.
Exactly, yes. And his question is, how does your breathing technique differ from that of like a free diver? Because it seems like they're doing similar things.
Yes, and you see the drowning possibility or risk is also there in their world. About 1,600 people drown every year. And the thing is, you have to learn to control the reflexes. And the reflexes done with the right breathing. By the way, I tell everybody, don't do these breathing exercises of ours in the water.
No.
Don't do it in the car. Unless you got it completely controlled. And this is the story all about now. While doing aggressive, deep breathing, the CO2 goes down, the carbon dioxide goes down. Then when you would be in the water, you possibly have more oxygen in the tissue, and the carbon dioxide trigger, the CO2 trigger, is not there. Your body is alkaline. You're able to go more than normal. So much. And then the oxygen is depleted from the tissue into the into the blood. It's being consumed. But yet the trigger is not there. The CO2 trigger is not there. And what do you got? You think you go on swimming. But then the oxygen in a level in the brain is being shut down. And that thus the brain shuts down. You become unconscious.
Yes.
And when that happens under the water, it's fatal. It's no good. You die. Or if they don't get you out, you die. Same thing happens in a car. You can still don't feel the gasping reflex, and you still go on, and the brain shuts down because there is no oxygen.
Yes.
So what I teach people, and what these diving people teach, the free divers, the apnea free divers, is to do the deep breathing, but then 2 times a little bit shallow. And then deeply again. In this way, the CO2 reflex or the carbon dioxide level remains, while the oxygen also gets into the tissue. This is the apnea, the free diving technique. Now, my technique is about getting oxygen into the tissue, the deepest part of our body, which in most cases in modern society, modern humans, is slightly acidic. We didn't know how to get there. Now we have found a way to get into there and to take the acidity out of there, which is the fundament for actually all the autoimmune diseases. Probably also for cancer and all that relates to inflammation, the slight acidic state of the tissue. And we did not have a way to get into that. So I found this way. We tested it in the university, and it takes away the cause of all these diseases.
Yes.
It's amazing. So, but I say, you have to learn if you want to do and perform into waters and do it anywhere you want, then learn how to control the carbon dioxide trigger. And there is the difference.
Yes.
What we do is to learn to go into the tissue and to learn to prevent acidity getting into the tissue. Thus, we take away the cause for autoimmune diseases, which is being examined right now in university studies.
Right.
So this is the difference. And I think millions of people die of autoimmune diseases, of cancer. And we are able to get into the causes of that with these breathing techniques.
Yes.
So mind, what do you think is more important? Swimming and performing under the water and things, or learning how to take away the cause of so many diseases?
Absolutely.
Think well before
Yes.
you get into all this.
Yes.
And if you want to learn and to go into performing, I train athletes, Olympic athletes. I train the best of fighters in the world. And I tell them always one thing, I don't care how good you are, I make you better. But listen up.
Yes.
And then it all begins, you know?
Yes, definitely. So basically what you're saying is that through the breathing technique, you're going to change the alkalinity, which can prevent certain diseases from happening in the body. Now, in my experience, I have done some free diving, and it's actually and this kind of goes into your work as well, you can learn these techniques fairly quickly. You know, within a couple of days, I was diving down to 30 meters and coming back up, and it's amazing. And when I do your method, I do your breathing. I will do 5 rounds of the breathing, and then I'll do push-ups. And when I do the push-ups, it doesn't make sense, but you can do more. I could do 60 push-ups after doing 5 rounds of the breath work. Is that the oxygen going into the muscle, into the cells again? That's helping that endurance.
Exactly. You know, you're not able to run anymore when your legs are full of acid, lactic acid.
Lactic acid, yeah.
What we do with the breathing is to enhance the alkalinity, and that's in the muscle tissue. Thus, the performance transmitters, neurotransmitters, like acetylcholine, suddenly is able to keep on going.
Yeah.
Because it's not sore, it's the right chemical environment. And that's exactly what you do. You bring in not only the right chemical environment in the muscle tissue, making you able to perform more, but also you reset the nervous system into the autonomic nervous system level to your consciousness. It's a complete reset. And if you do it well, you do not even feel fatigued.
So are you creating a new pathway in the neural pathways? Is that what you're doing?
Absolutely. A neural pathway, which is the connection with our conscious brain toward the deeper parts of the brain, which is connected to the autonomic nervous system.
Yes. And that's how you access control over the autonomic nervous system, which is something we thought, again, the word implies autonomic, meaning automatic, meaning that we can't control it, but you actually can tap into that.
And we have proven this.
Yes.
I showed not only me being able to do it, but with a full group within 4 days.
4 days. That's incredible considering how quickly you can do that. Now, I was wondering if you could get into maybe sum up the research that has been done and the research that is currently going on.
Research which has been done is on pain, on inflammation, and the brain. So on pain, it is they expose people wired up with sensors on their skin, like 10 spots on the body with electrical charge, like five levels.
Yes.
Going up, and they were all very able to neutralize the impact of the electrical charge, causing normally a pain signal, because with the breathing, and they were dealing with the chemistry, which normally is going on with electrical charge, going into the tissue, creating a wrong chemistry, which is then making the body create a signal. There is something going on, not good, pain, asking for our attention, not to be there. Get out of here. That's a pain signal. Now, they were able to not have this chemistry changed into the wrong chemistry caused by the electrical charge, and thus there was no pain signal.
Amazing.
And they had it controlled, and they went up to like 5 levels. This is the most you can do in a controlled experiment on anesthesia pain in the university. They did it all with all the test subjects reacted like the same, doing the breathing, making the body alkaline. Suddenly the connection is there. You consciously, and then the neural activity together with the chemistry is within your will, making you able to not have the chemistry changed while the electrical charges on being increased. Thus the pain signal has no functionality. It's not there. That's one. Another study was on inflammation, injected with a bacteria.
Yes.
All the people I trained within 4 days were able, within a quarter of an hour, to activate the specific immune system, which is normally done after 5 to 7 days. Activated the T cells and the B cells, the specific immune system. So a specific hormone is being released. Enzyme is being released on the intruder, which is the bacteria in this case, injected, controlled experiment in the university. And with all the 12 people, and now we did a bigger study, and it shows the same spectacular results. They were all able, within a quarter of an hour, to neutralize the bacteria's influence on the immune system, creating inflammation like fever, headaches, uncontrolled shivering, backaches, muscle aches, and all that, or overall agony. They could suppress the inflammatory markers within a quarter of an hour, all of them.
What kind of bacteria did they inject?
E. coli.
Yeah, that's bad.
E. coli bacteria, which creates really headaches and overall agony, like fever and uncontrolled shivering, like for 3 to 6 hours with a peak.
Yes.
And they all directly showed, whoop, adrenaline controlled within no time, like within a half hour, the adrenaline was so high while being lying on bed, doing breathing exercise, feeling a sort of high, producing more adrenaline than somebody in fear going into its first bungee jump.
Wow. So
That's controlled stress hormone.
Is it the stress hormones, the adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine? Is that what is activating the immune system to fight back?
Yes, to suppress directly the inflammatory markers.
Okay, and
the inflammation.
Now you activate the stress hormones in your body, which is fighting the bacteria. Is there any sort of mental component to this as well? Are you consciously making this happen, or is it just through the breathing technique?
No, breathing technique plus positive mindset. Like you deal with the bacteria, you go and neurologically, you engage with your mind. That makes the difference. The people who are not mindful, they will have less a outcome than those who do this mindful. Mindful plus breathing, much more impact than mindless and breathing.
Excellent.
You see what I mean?
Yes, 100%.
So, and now I have shown in Michigan that just the mind is able to control cold coming in on the body, making the skin temperature not going down. And that's the mind alone. Imagine what we can do with the mind. Very soon we show that we are able to go into the deepest part of the brain just by programming ourselves. Our intention. So learn that your intention is very capable if you only let it. Believe it, let it go and do its work in the brain, directing the rest of the body. It's there. Is it belief or is it neurological activation? And completely done, and we are witnessing how it is being done. It's amazing, and we are showing that this is happening. This is going to be a big breakthrough for neuroscience, for those people who are in agony, who are in distress, mood disorders, anxiety, fear, PTSD, depression, name it. And I'm really on to this, and as you are.
Yes.
To whatever is real, or Vancouver real, to whatever is you, because I don't see the there is no other word.
That's
to
it.
Whatever is.
To whatever
you
is.
know what is, and what is what we are showing to the world. What is happiness, strength, and health for everybody. You are able to control your mood anytime. our body and our mind is built to be able to do so much more than we have learned. So we have to teach the people, and we have to make people feel this.
Yes.
And as we are able to make them feel, and that's what I want in Toronto when I'm there, have them feel what this is. Because the knowledge is already there. The insight is already there. And then we together experience this. This will make it miraculous, beautiful. This day, and I love to be in that attitude.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here, Wim. We're really excited to have you up in Canada. I have a few more questions for you, and then I'd like to get into some of the fan questions, if that's okay. So,
yes, sure.
Another question I have for you is, you were relatively unknown for a long time, and then all of a sudden you exploded onto the scene with documentaries and podcasts and Joe Rogan and London Real and all these great podcasts you've been on. How do you handle being kind of like a celebrity now? How do you deal with the pressures that come with that?
Like always, to me, I witness, like you said, before, you learn to make the distance. So I just feel privileged. And I feel that finally it's getting through. And I want to share this with all the world, with all the good people in the world. I think everybody in the heart is a good person. And I want to ignite that the power of the heart and our belief is able to make this place, this beautiful planet of ours, one. Like we are able to become one within ourselves. And we live on that planet. We have different expressions as humans. One is yellow, the other one has stripes, and whatever. It doesn't matter. We all have feelings. And the feelings should be the ones of health, strength, and happiness.
Yes.
And if it is health, happiness, and strength, then we're going to live totally without depression and disease and all that. And we don't have this need, obsessive need to create healthy economies. No, we create healthy lives.
Yes.
And we are able to guarantee this for our children. And this is the world I want to live in. And I give my children who are going to live in this. And together with that, there is also the harmony with the nature. Because we lost this sense with our own nature. That's why we think nature doesn't exist or is something hostile. It is not. It's beautiful. It's together with us. It's all living beings. Let's be happy, strong, and healthy, everybody. And yeah, to me, that's the only thing that makes sense. So celebrity, yes or no, this was always my mission, and it will be ongoing. And I'm happy to have a lot of people aside of me right now.
Yes.
And we all fight for the same good. It's common sense, and it should be like mainstream that we are now scientifically proven and endorsed, able to become happy, strong, and healthy, everybody.
Yes. Yes. So the celebrity doesn't matter because, you're on purpose with your life mission, and that's why all this attention has come to you, I think. Now, you mentioned quickly about the idea of how people are very materialistic driven. They want to look for something external to them to make them happy, like a new promotion, more money, a bigger house, a car, whatever. They're looking for those things to make them happier. Why do you think there's a disconnect? So, we know external things are not going to make us happy forever. It's short term, temporary, and then it fades away. But why do people keep striving for new or novelty when they know that it's going to be short-lived?
Yeah, very good question. Because we got the lack to connect within ourselves to create this happy feeling. The hormones and not only the survival, which is the epinephrine, norepinephrine, but also the melatonins, the endorphins, the endogenous opiates, and all that. We have no control, so we find a control over that, a certain kind of control by these promising advertisements telling us If you buy my thing, then you will become happy. If you buy my car, then wow, look at this liberty. And there you go in a beautiful country. And it's never an advertisement going into a congestion. It's almost ridiculous with these cars. They can run like 260 kilometers an hour. We're always stuck in congestions. It's ridiculous. But all these promises of the advertisement channels, they promise us God through materials, good feelings through materials. And then we get brainwashed and we go for it because we lost connection within ourselves. And that's why we lost this direct common sense that we are able, without materials, to become happy, strong, and healthy. We lost it. So we go and follow the ones who are yelling the most. Hey, my Suzuki is great, and it makes you live forever in freedom, and you get all the women on board and everything. It's ridiculous, but it's happening. So where did we lose the connection with ourselves? Is where advertisement came in. And the advertisement is just a means of to get money. And where did the money get in is when it all became abstract. We lost the direct sense, the direct understanding of who we are, what we are, and what we are capable of. And one thing I want to show now is that we are capable, naturally built to become the master with our mind, over our endocrine system, the hormonal system, the immune system, thus health and mood, which is related to hormones and control thereover, is there. That means happiness, the good feel hormones, strength, the strengthening hormones, and together with health, the immune system and all its layers, it's there. It's there. And I want to make it common sense.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's my answer. Yeah.
Okay. I have a question for you about technology. Do you believe all the technology, all the social media, the phones, everything, do you think that is overall good for people or bad for people? What do you think about that?
I think that we are talking right now. This podcast, this is great work. Absolutely great work. But in remote areas, like in Canada, are remote areas. But also here, Lapland, people lived before a long distance from each other. And they were able to connect each other. They knew when the neighbor was coming. And then they were making tea and coffee and pastry, getting out and certain kinds of food and things, because they felt them coming. That's telepathy. That's clairvoyance. And all those things are actually serotonin cycles in our brain. And those serotonin cycles are part of the immune system, of the hormonal system, but we have no control of them. Why? Because we are being lived. So we get into this non-stimulated behavior. We do not feel anymore. We get all these machines. Since the telephone came into those remote areas, people lost this ability in the brain of activating the serotonin cycles. Thus, the clairvoyance and the telepathy, they just went away. It's like a muscle. If you don't train it, it gets weak. So we got our brain muscles. And so I say, hey, it's beautiful to have telephones. It's beautiful for all those things, for emergency, this and that. But the over exploitation by telephones as over our brain and taking all these buttons, heating, air conditioning, telephones, cars, etc., taking over our bodies and our mind is neglecting the right stimulation for our mental and physical powers to evolve. So we have to learn about that. And I think right now we can show it through scientific studies. How much do you need to activate and stimulate all these systems to become happy, strong, and healthy, consciously.
Yes.
And if you want more, you can go for more. So we have to learn more about our physiology. We are actually alienated or disconnected through all these things. I think technology is great, beautiful, but our bodies even greater.
Yes. So
they both are able to live aside of each other, but we have to learn to control them.
So the technology causes us to lose connection, but we can use it, like in conversations like this, to educate people to get some of that back, right? So there's good and bad to it, maybe. Yeah.
Sure.
I was on London Real with Brian Rose. We did our 100th episode of Vancouver Real in London on London Real. And this is a question that Brian asked me, which I want to ask you because I think it's a very good one. And the question is, if you could make a phone call to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell that person?
Yeah, I would say just keep on believing. Listen, you are on the right track. If I remember now, being a member again of what I felt then, it was my mother. Like 10 years ago, she told me, she was then 80 years old, and she told me, 82 years old, actually 12 years ago. 12 years ago, she told me, I don't know where the years have gone. Because she was still a child within herself. She could remember that. But only her body was different. So I'm telling you right now, I'm completely satisfied with what I am right now and what I was at that moment. I would reassure, keep on believing what you are doing there. You will be a long time alone and believing it, but don't waver from your belief, because it's there, and look where it will get you. I would give him a view, especially with the phones we got now. We are able to show where we are and what we are, and yeah, I'm very happy with what I got. Yet I'm absolutely not laying back. I want to change the world, but that together, by raising the consciousness together with people like you, people like London Real, was it Brian?
Brian Rose, yes.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, he's a flower, man. He's good. He's good.
Yeah.
And so there are many people, there are more and more people who are like flowers, spiritual flowers, investigators, not in fear, but in awe of the life. I wanted to have this liberty, this full expanding of the consciousness, which is the natural development of ours, and not serving just a healthy economy. Now, feeling shit. No, feeling great. And whatever the economy is, you will survive. But expanding the consciousness and feeling happy, strong, and healthy, that's it. So, yes, awesome. By 20 years old, right on.
So you're on the right path to embrace, where you were, because it got you to where you are now, right? Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Now, just a few more questions from some of the fans here in Canada that has some questions for you.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask a question by a gentleman named Zach Berman. He owns a company in Vancouver called Juice Truck, very popular cold-pressed juice company here in Vancouver. And he wanted to ask you specifically about your diet and nutrition and how you eat and take care of yourself that way.
Yes, cold press. Cold press doesn't destroy the texture of the food, the fibers and
the
vitamins and the nutrients. And that's what I say. I want food to be food. And he will agree with me. That's why he invented this cold press or is selling it. He can believe in his product. I eat once a day after 6 o'clock is when I really feel hunger, appetite. I feel during the day, I felt then my body. Like today, it's almost 6 o'clock here, 6 in the afternoon. I didn't eat all day. But in change, I feel my body looking for food, and it's changing inside. it's doing fat burning instead of sugar burning. And it's awakening, stimulating on cell level whatever is involved in the chemical processes of making energy.
Are you talking about ketosis, like ketogenic diet?
Yes. And that should be that's a natural thing of ours. Our ancestors had no, fish and chips around the corner. There were trees around the corner. You had to find your food, and you had to gather. You had to move all the time and to place. And sometimes, I think we were not as fast as a rabbit, and we had to chase it and to find things. And now it's all there all the time. We still got these old reflexes and these old appetite-driven urges, but the environment has changed completely. That's why we take on the food, and we are into direct sugar burning. We don't give the body a slack of time to invent, to energize, to be energized, to have these hunting eyes. Wow, where's the food? Because that's feeling alive. And I love it. So I always go for this feeling that I feel that my body is working on the energy on cell level, and it's all working. And I feel great now. So whenever that is happening, then I know my body is at work. Now I will get some food. But then we go to the issue of food. You have food, and you have chemically processed food. And if it is chemically processed food, then your body has to break down all those chemicals. How do you say? Put in extra and hasn't got
energy to digest.
Yes, it takes extra energy to chemically to be able to be processed to make the energy.
Yes.
So you eat food, but it equals energy. But it takes also a lot of that energy to process the wrong chemistry coming in with that food. And worldwide, the food industry is too much into whatever makes the food being able to be sold for, say, over months. You cannot find that in nature.
No.
And we have to, to find a way to have the right chemicals in the food. Preserving the food, okay, we can understand, but the food industry is really not about making our food really healthy. And he who is into cold pressing, that's the right way.
Yes,
that's the right way.
They're doing a very good thing here in Vancouver, a very popular juice company here for sure, and that was from Zach at Juice Truck. Now this is from Jennifer J.S. She's part of the Vancouver Real community, and she asked you, what do you do during the summer? When it's warm, do you change your routine if you don't have access to the cold water?
In the summer, yes, it does not matter. When I get my hands in ice water or on ice cubes and all that, sometimes I just do a nice ice party or ice session with the people, with sporters or whatever. And then we stay it's great to make an ice bath, go in there for 10 minutes, and then enjoy the sun afterwards.
Yes.
When the sun is fully on your body and feel the difference, it's amazing. It's completely different than in the wintertime. So in summertime, most of the time, I'm really not into ice water because I just follow the natural changes of the water through the stages like spring, autumn, winter, summer, etc. And it makes my body able to be activated and stimulated on the cardiovascular system. So in summertime, I do still the breathing exercises, the push-ups, for example. It's a great exercise, the push-ups. Absolutely great exercise. And when I get into mountain climbing and see an ice lake, I just go into it. I have no problem whatsoever because the winter is always there to reawaken all the cardiovascular system, and it stays all year long the right way. So the connection between me, the mind, and the vascular system is well trained if you just go into the winter into regular ice bathing or something like that.
Great, thank you. Now, I run a business in Vancouver called Float House, and it is around the sensory deprivation chambers. Have you heard of that before?
Do you mean like floating?
Floating, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm connected to a pretty big industry across North America. I know most of the float center owners across North America, and they would like to know if you have tried it. Have you tried floating? And what is your opinion on that?
Yes, floating. It is, as you said, it's taken away the sensations, the sensorical perception.
Yes.
So that makes your body tranquil, because the sensorical perception is very connected to this stress-related part of our brain, which is neocortex. So it shuts down, and suddenly the deeper parts of the brain are working, which is a sense of no limits. There is no distance, no time. It's all gone. It's just pure feeling. And that is amazing. That is amazing. And for most of the people, it's not accessible without, say, the help of the aid of a floating tank,
yes.
for example. So very, very good work being done that way. Now, with the breathing exercises, I would say it does a similar effect with the retention after breathing, because you're not breathing anymore. Thus, the relationship with the neocortex, the stress-related part of our brain, also is being like disconnected. There is no breathing. There is no oxygen coming in. So it shuts down, and it also goes into the depth of the brain. Thing now is what I do with not only floating tanks, but also with spa and wellness centers. We are into new studies. I was last time in Australia and in Melbourne together with a professor called Mark Cohen, who want to cooperate and show why floating tanks, cold water, ice water, which is different than cold water, heat, and all those natural elements on the body are very beneficial to our physiology, and actually very heavily needed in nowadays conditions as we are. And so I think you guys have a great business.
Yeah, there's some really good research going on in that industry as well at LIBOR, the Laureate Brain Institute in the United States, and by Dr. Justin Feinstein. If people want to learn more about that research and how it affects anxiety, they can look up Justin Feinstein on YouTube talking at the Float conference, and they can learn more about that as well.
Wow.
Would you recommend trying your breathing techniques before floating or even during floating? Would you recommend that or no?
As you float, and you would pass out, nothing. It's okay, because you're still floating, and then you regain breath. And I heard people already doing floating tanks, like floating, and doing the breathing. Amazing! What's happening there inside is amazing. They're really far out. So yes, if you're experienced in the breathing, then doing it with floating, I would not, suggest directly. But I say it's a very tempting way to go very deeply in and find great highs doing it.
Yeah.
But if you do it before, your alkalinity will rise, and your floating will experience a whole lot better.
Yeah, I could see that happening for sure. And this leads into another question, and maybe it has to do with, or do you know how to activate the pineal gland through your technique? Is that part of it? Because that would, we talk about this sometimes with floating. Is we call it stacking modalities. So we'll do the float. Sometimes we'll do yoga and then we'll go floating, or sometimes you do some kind of something like kratom or something, or kava to help you relax. You take something to help you relax. I'm wondering though, if your breathing could activate the pineal gland, and you could use that in the float tank as well to have a deeper experience.
Yes. If you do this breathing before you go into the floating tank, and we call it power breathing. The power breathing we did in the university, and it shows that it creates a very strong activation of the brainstem. And in the brainstem, we got the pineal gland. So it actually learns to oxygenate and alkalize the brainstem, and thus activate the pineal gland in secretions. If you go on in the power breathing, like 4 or 5 rounds, you are really into not only activating the pineal gland, into DMT. So dimethyltryptamine, which is a hormone which is released in the REM sleep at the time of death and the time of birth. And so in the night, in the deep sleep, we are DMT is going on, is being released to have the dreams in 3 dimensions.
Yes.
Very strong experiences. You see it and you feel it. That's DMT doing. And that DMT we can release consciously as well through the power breathing, which is breathing technique number 2, which is being done. It's on our website, and we are learning how to do it to not only activate the pineal gland, but also the hormones which are related to pain, and the hormones which are related to suppress inflammation. So we make this university studies on that, but it actually is the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is responsible for many hormones, together with the pituitary gland. Yes. And the hypothalamus. It's an axis. The adrenal axis, and we are into it. So yes, pineal gland, power breathing, I would say, before like 4 cycles. You go into the floating tank, that suddenly the alkalinity of the alkaline degree of the brainstem is so high that with the sensorical deprivation in the floating tank, you are suddenly able to go into the depth of the brainstem and experience consciously all the mind in its beautiful activated state of feeling, pure feeling, which is pineal gland responsible. Yeah. It's called also, the seed of the soul, and it's pure feeling, spirituality, but without drugs, because the drugs are already there. Only because of our lifestyles we disconnect therefrom. And now this power breathing is able to reconnect the right chemistry in the brainstem, thus being able to consciously experience this deep activation, which is then, it's fucking great.
Yeah. Okay, this is my last question here for you, Wim.
Yes.
And the last question is, so do you know the organization called MAPS? So Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, MAPS? Have you heard of them? Rick Doblin?
Yes, not on MAPS, but I'm doing studies together with John Chavez, and who is dealing with Rick Strassman and people on those. And we have talks. They see that the way I get into the brain is exactly the way they use for people who are very strong, addicted, and have a deep traumas, and are not able to release it. And for that release, you have to go into the pineal gland. You have to go into the depth of the amygdala, the hippocampus, etc. And normally we use drugs, therefore, like ayahuasca and ibogaine and all those things to activate, methylize the melatonin in the brain, thus creating the DMT, thus being able to get into, like a witness, there you get them again, the distance. Like a witness, I began with trauma, and look at the trauma and not be part of it.
Yes.
So we learn not only through the cult to get into this, but with conscious use of this deeper breathing, we are able to activate these states of mind, of the brain, consciously. And if MAPS is doing that as well, and wants studies on this, then I would suggest to get MAPS into this and to do brain studies while we're doing this breathing techniques, and show that we are activating the deepest part of the brain, thus the brainstem, and all consciously. It's amazing. So
Yes.
if I don't know them MAPS exactly, it's because I'm off the world. I only get in contact with the people who are contacting me.
Yes.
Then I'm totally open of what I do, and I want to cooperate. The more, the merrier. Studies, no speculation. Let's show it to the world.
Yes. Well, they're doing fantastic work. People like yourself, the great people at MAPS, what we're doing in the float industry, they're all on the same mission, really, And, MAPS has a fundraiser on right now, MAPS Canada, because they're raising money for their research. They're using MDMA or ecstasy to treat PTSD and depression. So it's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So they're doing it through clinical trials, and they're proving that it can work. Okay, they're going on to the phase 3 clinical trials now, and they're doing it through a chemical that is you're taking externally, and you are kind of getting the same results by activating it through the breath and through your technique.
Yes. So you got exogenous triggers and you got endogenous triggers. And also to trigger endogenous opiates to get into the body and to have to create a sense of control to anybody who is in, say, PTSD or trauma or this or that. Very soon I'm dealing with the Navy SEALs and doing research with them in June.
That's great.
And, yes, and I will show that I'm able to show people to endogenously trigger the right hormones to deal with existent trauma and to have the neuroplasticity make different pathways in the brain. It's all there. We are able to heal ourselves. And for those who are not able to access into our brains, we found the tools. And you know where? The cold water. The cold water is the mother of the natural elements, and it teaches us the right way. It's merciless, it's righteous, and it's right over there. So we have to just get back to this consciousness that we have actually, or that we are equipped with the ability to heal ourselves and to do so much more than we think. And it's all there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the more the merrier. Endogenous, exogenous. Exogenous triggers sometimes are very good, like MDMA or
ayahuasca, psilocybin.
All of them.
Yes.
They are all good for people who are in terminal cancer, who are in fear of death, who have inexplicable traumas and all that. But that's also because they don't know this exists, what we are doing.
Yes, you have a natural way of doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the natives also, they knew how to deal with this. Now, we are living in modern times. Our neurology is far more developed than before. The shape of our skull is the same, but what is inside there is a lot more. So we have to learn to deal with that, and the natural abilities of our mind are able to deal with this. and I learned it through the cold. Because you know, as you as me, we know in the cold you're not going to picnic. You're not going to think about this or that. No, you are into dealing inside your brain with your body the most direct of ways, and you find this way, and that way you learn to apply in the modern world, which is full of stress, etc. But nothing is as strong as freezing fucking cold water.
Yes.
It's the best teacher.
Amen to that, brother. Well, Wim, thank you very much for your time today. You've been very generous. We are very excited to have you here in Vancouver. I know Toronto is going to be excited to have you. It's been too long. You haven't been to, I don't think you've come to Canada yet, and we've been waiting for the Iceman for a very long time. So it's going to be on May 20th and May 21st in Toronto and Vancouver, and we are excited to experience Wim Hof and the cold and the breathing and the Wim Hof method in person.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All
right.
On. All right, Wim. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you here. Take care, man.
Thank you. Thanks, Ed.